Hello again everyone. In today's video I'm going to explain to you the 1-year journey as a self-taught web developer in Japan. So let's get started. So there's already so much content out there on how you can, so this is not really a video on how you should or how you shouldn't. It's just a video on how I did it from zero to employment in 1 year. So for me, going to boot camp or a school was not an option because of the price. It was a bit too much for me. I couldn't afford it. So I just went straight into a book. I wanted a book to keep references and to keep track of what I'm learning. There's probably a lot of amazing online free courses out there, but I just needed a book. You know, everyone has their own learning style. By the way, I've never read a book in my life. So I went through and found these two thick books which I got at the bookstore. It's the first one was HTML and CSS Design and Build Websites by John Duckett, I think his name is. That's how you pronounce it. And his other one was JavaScript and jQuery Interactive Front-End Web Development. Of course, the same as John Duckett. And the reason I like this book is I could see a lot of visuals in it. The colors were, I don't know how to say, grabbing my attention. There are a lot of books out there that look boring, and fair enough, you know. These books really animate some ideas to help you understand JavaScript. So I went through and gave me about 2 months to study HTML and CSS, and I think that's around enough. After 2 months, you can get it. Probably won't make anything crazy. Well, I didn't, but I just went through that book. It's quite a thick book. Then after the 2 months went by, I started to look into JavaScript, and this was the first time I ever tried any type of programming of any sort, coding. I know I can't say programming, some people are gonna get all, but any type of coding in terms of a scripting language. This was the first time, and it was JavaScript was a big jump for me from someone who knew nothing about anything. So going through that JavaScript and jQuery, the reason I wanted to learn JavaScript by itself is I didn't want to jump into a framework or anything, or even jQuery. I didn't want to jump into jQuery unless I understood what JavaScript what it is and what it does. So I went through that, and that took me about I'll be honest, it took me about 3 months to go through this, because I went over concepts again and again, and it was difficult for me to understand, you know, concepts like what an array, what the hell is that? I kept looking at it, I just didn't get it. The day it clicked was probably a month and a bit into it. And I kind of felt like giving up, to be honest. So that for this book, I didn't only study that book. I would go through the book, and when there were concepts or parts which I didn't understand, no matter how many times I read it, I'll YouTube it, and then guys on YouTube will be giving really good explanations on it and give an example code, and you can code along with it. So that's one of the parts which I recommend, is just because you have a course or you have a book, you don't have to stick with it. You can always look at other people's examples, or even Stack Overflow, or there's so many out there, just Google it, basically. Another thing you can try if you're self-studying is I was working when I was studying, so I would work from around lunchtime to late afternoon. So let's say 12 to 6, something like this. But my transportation would take 1 hour. In that 1 hour, I actually had a notebook which I would write down code on to help me remember things. And I'll also put my mind into that kind of matrix mode where I said matrix mode, when you're just in that zone of understanding what you're looking at. Whatever, I don't know what that means, but if you know what I mean, you know what I mean. So my transportation takes about 1 hour to get to my work, and then 1 hour to get back. So that's about 2 hours of study I can add to a day. So I recommend if you travel somehow, even if you drive, maybe listen to something that can help you revise of yesterday's study. So let's say 2 hours, around 2 hours, maximum, or let's just say 1 hour on average during transportation. Then I would go home and study between 1 to 3 hours on average every day. So let's just say 2 hours. That would give me 3 hours of study every single day. And that was from Monday to Friday. And on Saturday and Sunday, I could do a lot more, like 4 to 5 hours on average. And that's basically how I studied in terms of time. And these 2 books is basically how I studied in beginner mode to become as an absolute beginner. So now we're at around 6 months into study, and some people might say that's enough, you can get a job. But I think I really wanted to get the back-end side of things, server side, and the database side. But not just that, but I wanted to make my own product by myself, because when I was listening to kind of YouTubers say that if you have a portfolio, that's basically your CV. Yes and no, in some sense it doesn't work like that, and some it does. But when you have nothing to lose, you kind of just go YOLO mode, and you just make your own application. So I spent about that 5 to 6 months learning front end, and at that point I kind of knew what was happening. If there was something to be made, I could make it in just plain JavaScript. I actually didn't study jQuery. I didn't like it for some reason. I don't know why. But it's probably way easier to use jQuery. But I wanted to learn just how to do everything in plain vanilla JavaScript. So around the 5th or 6th month, I started to look into server-side development. And this is important to know as well, is that your city might, or your area and the time that you're in might use different frameworks or libraries. So there was a time when everyone was using Ruby on Rails. Maybe that would be the best option, just to learn Ruby on Rails. And then if you're in Tokyo, this is Tokyo specific or Japan specific, everyone's on PHP. Everyone and his dog is on PHP and MySQL and jQuery. But yeah, it's something you have to take in consideration, is the city you're in. But this is about in Tokyo in Japan. So I recommend, if you just want to go the easiest route in Tokyo, PHP, MySQL, and jQuery, and you can get a job easily. That's all you need. In some instances, if you know React, they don't really care, because they've been using jQuery since the inception of jQuery, and they don't care if you know Python and node.js. They don't care if you can scale your application. They just go, do you know PHP? And for some reason I don't like PHP. Maybe I'm a hipster. Maybe I'm a hipster who drinks craft beers on the weekend, but yeah, PHP is not for me. MySQL, I didn't like it at first, because it's being a hipster. But anyway, let's go into the server side and database. So I went through, and I'll show it up on the screen. I went through, I wanted to understand how to make a type of isomorphic web application. And yeah, being a hipster, I just wanted to use JavaScript. And you shouldn't care. To be honest, you shouldn't care what frameworks you use, because in the end, you'll be doing something very similar. So MongoDB, I started, and there's free online courses, and you get certified from MongoDB themselves. is it important to get? Not really, but I just needed something to help me understand how databases work. So MongoDB University is great. There's probably a MySQL University. There's all these kind of, okay, so I had that, but I didn't jump to DBs first. What I wanted to do was understand how APIs, REST APIs work. Having already understand the basics of JavaScript, I went straight into Node.js with the Express framework. I wanted to keep my studies a lot more simpler. And even though I knew at the time there weren't many Node.js jobs around, I kind of followed basically follow Silicon Valley, because they do it first, everyone copies. So I learned Node.js, and I understood how to get, post, delete, and edit data via an API. So I made my own local APIs, just my local host, that my front end could get, delete, update, post data. So I learned REST APIs first. Then I learned how to store that data instead of storing it in arrays and objects, just in memory. I learned how to do that with MongoDB. So now you have the MongoDB, Node.js, then your front end. At this time, I haven't learned React or Angular, because Angular was popular at that time too. Angular 1. Also, Angular 1 was okay actually. Now this is around 9 months in of my studies, of self-study, and all I knew was that at the end of the 12 months, I would have a job. And that's all I saw myself. I didn't know how, I didn't know what language or anything. Didn't even know which country or city I'll be in. But I was in Tokyo, so I said, okay, I need to make my own project. So I started after around the 9th month. I took about 3 to 4 months to make my own project. And basically, you want to do something that you're interested in, do a project that you're interested in, and it doesn't even matter if it works or not. I mean, the code has to work, but the project can absolutely fail with 0 users besides you and your friend. What matters is that you can display to a future or possible employer that you understand the basics of how everything works. And I'm not talking about the basics as in for how to get an with JavaScript, how to get an ID and document by ID and do something. No, I'm talking about you can look at something in a bird's eye view and understand how it's going to be made, because that's how I thought. I didn't know if I was right or wrong. Before I went monk mode, I loved going to parties and bars all over Tokyo. I loved it. Wasted all my money on it, no savings. Just a poor English teacher going out having some fun. So I made basically a web application that was viewable on your smartphone. So a responsive website, which is very important. Responsive website. A responsive website, and without using Bootstrap, I wanted to, do the CSS myself. It was a chat and posting social media for bars and clubs. Of course, I knew it wouldn't get big or anything, but I liked it and I wanted to make it. And so doing that, about four months it took me. I just made the whole thing myself. Yeah, it was great. Connected MongoDB, Node.js, and in the front end, I ended up learning React, which was quite challenging. If you jump from just the jQuery kind of or just the JavaScript mindset and you jump into something like React, it's quite difficult. So I made that, and then I said, okay, well, I've made it, and it was coming up to that 12-month mark where I go, okay, I need to get that job now. And so I saved up about 3 months of food and rent, which is not much. It's probably, actually, I don't even think it was that much. I think I only saved up a few $1,000s. So I quit my job, and I wasn't making much anyway, and I was only working 20 to 30 hours a week. So I quit my job. Then I said, okay, Tyrone, this is make or break. If you don't get this, you will be homeless in 3 months. Something like $1,000 a month I can live off, right? And I truly believe these kind of times where it's make or break, it really does mold you into the person you want to become. So I had a broken computer, so I had to borrow a friend's one. Camera didn't work. I applied for probably 3 or 4. I got a meeting for 2 of them. And one of them was the one I want. The reason is you kind of make a project. For example, if you like agriculture, make a project for agriculture, then look for an agriculture-based IT company. If you love gaming, you make a gaming website, not a gaming like you're gonna go on the website and game, but a website targeted for the gaming community. Target that market that you're interested in. Mine was, even though it was a chat and app and club, it was actually about real-time databases, or real-time applications, because I was making a chat application using Socket.io, and I was looking into things like Firebase and PubNub. There's a few others, but you basically look at something, the technologies you want to use, that you're interested in, and then those industries that use it a lot, if that makes sense, that use it. So I got that the first interview I got. Then I didn't get a job at first actually. I was on a 3-month, the lead developer, I think they probably liked me, and that helps you so much if people like you. I learned that a lot in the last 5 years, 6 years or so. People like you, it just makes things a lot easier. So I was given a kind of task, and that task was based on the product they were making. And if I could clear the task, I would probably get the job. So I got given the task, and I had to do it in a few days, and I was stressing, I was sweating bullets. I was, what the hell's happening, you know? This is my chance, this is my only chance. If I don't get it, it's the end of the world. It wouldn't be, but that's how you think, right? So I got that task done, and then I was given 3 months as a type of, I don't know if you call it intern, but a trial, 3-month trial. And then after that 3-month trial was up, I was given a proper employment. After that 3-month trial was up, which I passed, no problem, I was given a full contract with the company. And this was quite a large company from my standpoint. It was a 200 worker company. Yeah, so that's basically my 12-month journey as a web developer in Tokyo. And by the way, the interviews were done in Japanese. So that's another thing you have to remember is getting a job in Japan, it's speaking Japanese goes a long way. You just gotta speak it. If you can, that's the hardest part probably. More than the coding is speaking Japanese, because it's not easy. It's even harder than learning all this code mumbo jumbo. So yeah, if you found this video interesting or entertaining or what have you, do what you gotta do. If you have any questions, you know where to ask me. I'll also put like a Google form link in the section somewhere, the info area. And if you want to ask me anything, there's a Google Forms, is it? Yeah, there's a form there. Even if you want to talk to me via email or even a Zoom call of some sort, I'm happy to help. Because I know that this information is very hard to get in Japan. And yeah, I'll give it to you for free. So yeah, thanks for watching. But just a point about the Japanese part is that even though I spoke Japanese in meetings or things like that, the company actually had a lot of English speakers, and some projects I will just be speaking English. So it depends on the size of the company, the type of work they do, and who's working there. But you actually find in Tokyo, there are many CEOs or CTOs or workers who actually speak English. So even you're working on a project that will be used by Japanese speakers, the management can be English speaking, and that means that you can work in English. So I don't want you to think that if you don't speak Japanese, you can't get a job in Japan. It's far from it, because I met so many guys who cannot speak Japanese at all and work as developers, AI, whatever, front end, smartphone developer. Actually, a lot of people I work with now speak both English and Japanese. They're smart guys around here. So don't be, what's that word? I don't speak that language. No. There's a lot of companies in Tokyo, and even I think Line or Rakuten, Amazon, all these large companies, which I'll never be employed at, probably have a lot of non-Japanese speakers, only English speakers. So that's not really a problem. Just my company I applied for, it wasn't a requirement, but you kind of, if you could speak it, will help you tremendously.